It's been estimated that there are billions of dollars sitting in old retirement plans that people have forgotten about, essentially that it's unclaimed money. And if you're one of those people and you have an old 401k or retirement plan and you're unsure as to where it is, there are three places where that money could be right now. It could be exactly where you left it. It could be in a new account that's been set up with a new 401k administrator, or it could be in the hands of your state's unclaimed property division.
Are you ready for a successful retirement? We're addressing the topics facing today's retirees. Welcome to Retire with Ryan. Now here's your host, Ryan Morrissey.
Welcome back. This is episode 124. Do you have old retirement plans and 401ks that you've lost track of? Are you not sure where you can find and locate those accounts? In this week's episode, I'm going to cover 4 ways on how you can locate those old retirement plans and talk about how you can put them to their best use. It's been estimated that there are billions of dollars sitting in old retirement plans that people have forgotten about, essentially that it's unclaimed money. And if you're one of those people and you have an old 401k or retirement plan and you're unsure as to where it is, there are 3 places where that money could be right now. It could be exactly where you left it. It could be in a new account that's been set up with a new 401k administrator, or it could be in the hands of your state's unclaimed property division. So if you're unsure as to where these accounts are, there's 3 steps that you should take to figure that out. The first is contact your old employer about your 401k. If your employer is still in business, then it's easy to track down your old employer and find out where your old 401k has gone. You may have received notice in the mail. Maybe you ignored that notice. And depending on the size of your balance that you left with that 401k, will determine most likely where that money is. So if you have less than $1,000 balance, your 401k provider can actually cash in that account and they can send a check to you. That would be the most troubling if you didn't follow up on that, because chances are that check is no longer valid if it didn't reach you. So you'd have to get a new check. And then there could be a tax consequence created by getting that check, because anytime you get a check from a retirement plan, it is taxable to you unless you roll that money over into another retirement plan within 60 days. If you had a balance between $1,000 and $5,000, the old retirement plan provider can't just send you a check, but they can move that account. So it's possible that they have moved that account into an IRA somewhere, and hopefully that money got invested, but in some instances that money just sits in cash. So that would also not be really great, because that means your money is earning very little interest and it's not working very hard for you. If your account is over $5,000, chances are it's still with that employer-sponsored retirement plan, depending on where it is. Maybe they've signed up with another company, or maybe it's exactly where you left it, and it's simply a case of you gaining access to that account. So that would be your easiest option if it's a balance over $5,000. Now, the second thing is that if you don't know who your 401k provider is anymore, maybe it's been many years since you work for this employer and they maybe have merged a few times or maybe gone out of business completely, you still want to maybe contact the old 401k plan administrator, let's say that was Vanguard or Fidelity, and try to figure out if they still have that account open for you. If you're unable to locate your 401k through your administrator, then your next step is to try to look it up with your Social Security number. One option is that you can go to a website like unclaimedretirementbenefits.com. It's a national registry of unclaimed retirement benefits, and you can check there first. If you aren't able to find it there, another website is meetbeagle.com, and you can also check with that website. Another option is to go to the Department of Labor's Abandoned Plan database. This is where you can find out if your employer is no longer in business or if they terminated their plan, where the assets went. So that's another option. And then if you have a pension plan with a company that went out of business, or they disbanded the pension and you lost track of that paperwork, you can search the U.S. Pension Guarantee Corporation database of unclaimed pensions. And similar as the other databases, you'll need to provide your name, address, social security number, employer's name, dates you worked at the company, and then you can find out if you have a pension plan. And then one final source to go to is Free ERISA. This is a database that maintains records on employee benefit plans, and you could sign up for a free account, and you could also search for your employer to see if you can find out what happened to that plan. And I'll put a link in the show notes for all of these websites. So if you go to retirewithryan.com/podcast/124, you can find this episode as well as the links to these websites to look up these old retirement plans. Once you've then exhausted the options under number 2, you could then move on to option number 3, which is where you're searching unclaimed property databases. And if a company terminates a retirement plan, it has a number of options as far as what it can do with that money, no matter what the balance is. One thing they could do is they could roll it over and set up an IRA on your behalf. They could deposit it at a bank, or they can leave it with the state's unclaimed property fund. And one website you can hit up is missingmoney.com. This is run in part with the National Association of Unclaimed Property Administrators to do a multi-state search of unclaimed property. Maybe you've done this before and you've found you had a couple dollars that you had in an old bank account that you didn't realize was there. This is a similar thing that's done. So you can do that through this website, or you can go to the local state's website if you're not getting anywhere to see if that state's unclaimed property website is yielding any results, the state where the company was located. So hopefully one of those 3 options will yield you some results, but that does take a fair amount of work. So I'm excited about option 4. And recently, a trio of the industry's largest 401k administrators, Fidelity Investments, Vanguard, and Alight Solutions, have teamed up to try to alleviate some of the work and some of the stress and tax problems that go along with old 401k balances. And what they've done is they've put together essentially a clearinghouse where anytime you leave a job and there's an old 401k balance after a certain period of time, these companies will talk to each other and they'll automatically try to transfer that money over to a new qualified window within a short period of time. So if it's less than $1,000, and normally there'd be a check, but they don't know where to send it, or it comes back because it wasn't cash, they would take care of that. And if you have another retirement account there, they'll try to automatically move that money over to that plan for you. So if you had an account at Fidelity or Vanguard or Alight, that could alleviate the problem and take some of the headache out of this. That way, the money will automatically be transferred to you, and you'll also have your money working for you. And it does represent a large portion of the 401k assets out there. They represent about 40%, but that still does leave another 60% of accounts that aren't covered by this clearinghouse. Hopefully, other firms will sign up and it'll be a much smoother process. But in the meantime, it's probably a good idea to go through the first 3 steps, find out if you had any old 401ks out there, any pension plans, old retirement plans, and first of all, find out where they are, and then worry about the next thing, which is what to do with these plans once you find them. Now, it's probably a good idea, if you haven't listened to it, to go back and listen to episode 40, 4 things to know before doing a 401k rollover. But what I talk about in that episode is that everyone always thinks doing a 401k rollover is the first thing that you should do, right? You find an old 401k, old retirement plan, you should roll it over. Not necessarily. There are a number of considerations anytime you're considering rolling over or transferring an old retirement plan. But definitely go back and listen to episode 40 on the 4 things to think about. And while you're doing that, one thing you should also look into in this old retirement plan is what are the fees that you're paying. And that will help you also to review this. So you can log into that 401k, or you can request the participant fee summary disclosure, and that will tell you what your fees are, because you'd want to understand that and see if there's a way to lower those, and then also figure out how this account fits into your overall asset allocation. So I hope this episode has been helpful on how you should go about finding old retirement plans. And if you think you have some old retirement plans or you're just not really sure, definitely go through those steps to find that money and get it invested and working for you better. Thanks for tuning in this week, and I look forward to talking to you next Wednesday. Take care.
You should consult a financial advisor familiar with your specific circumstances before you make any financial decisions. Nothing in this broadcast constitutes a solicitation for the sale or purchase of any securities. Any mention of rates of return are historical or hypothetical in nature and are not a guarantee of future returns. Ryan Morrissey, CFP, is an investment advisor representative of Morrissey Wealth Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor.